Before we begin this video, I want to give a quick shout out to Drift Motors. Drift Motors is the exclusive distributor of Mercane electronic mobility solutions in the Philippines. Check out their Facebook page for more information about their next generation of personal electric vehicles. Now, on to the show. Finally, sa wakas nagka-Honda na rin tayo sa channel. I was starting to think that we were going to be a Toyota love fest after the past two reviews, but now we come to the brand that we all know and love, but can never fully come to accept and understand. When compared to the likes of Toyota or Mitsubishi, Honda came in relatively late to the market, and our dads, whose sensibilities were awakened during the turbulent 70s and 80s, never really got to experience the brand. It's only during the 90s when the brand entered the local market na namulat tayo sa kakayahan ng Honda with the EF Civic. Then came the Racer Boys, ESIs, tapos yung SIR. Compared to ibang brands like Toyota or Mitsubishi, Honda has always been regarded as the anti-establishment car brand. Now we have this, the 2014 Honda Civic 1.8 EXI. Kailangan din natin mag-mature sometime, and this is Honda's step in that direction.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 niggas wanna war, 10 niggas on the floor, 11 niggas on the porch, 12 killers wanna war, 13 carnivores, 14 Labradors, 15 dinosaurs, 16 avatars, 17 bombs and grenades at your rental car, 18 ways you can...
Now, after the revolutionary 8th generation FD Civic, Honda released this, the 9th generation Civic FB. Muntik pa hindi ma-release ng Honda itong model nito after a series of natural disasters that struck their R&D offices in Japan and production plants in Thailand. Pero in the end of the day, they still came up with what can probably be called their most underrated Civic ever. The Civic has always been known to be Honda's people mover. Meron silang ibang mga bestsellers like the CR-V, the Accord, and even sports cars like the S2000s or the NSX. But the Civic has always been their pride and joy, and has always held a special place in Honda's heart and ours. The word Civic comes from the Latin word civicus, which means citizen or people. So dun pa lang alam mo na kung para saan ginawa tong Civic. It was meant to be the people's car, Honda's people's car, and all throughout its many models it was known to be as such. In the Philippines, this car was known to be just that. You or your family probably own or have a close friend that drives a Civic. Who can blame them? It was affordable, easy to maintain, and sobrang dami ng parts pagdating sa aftermarket to easily customize and modify your Civic to suit your personality. Now that open platform brought out the creativity in many of us, and it's safe to say that the Civic played a huge part in why the current car scene looks the way it is. From engine upgrades to bodywork, suspension, the Civic was affordable enough for first-time car buyers to get on the move and join the car scene. Kung titignan mo siya, para siyang blank canvas, ready for your own personal touches. Pero katulad nating lahat, kailangan mag-move on. Kinailangan ng Civic na mag-graduate. Kailangan niya maghanap ng trabaho, mag-build ng career, maghanap ng asawa at magkaanak. After a wild freshman year with the EG, malakas mag-ingay sa classroom gamit yung D15 engine niya. And its sophomore high with the EK and SIR. Tapos yung awkward junior years with the ES. And the last hurrah with the FD. The Civic is finally ready to wear a suit and tie and get down to business with the FB. Now, like all fresh grads, we haven't shed our college years completely. Mailan sa ating naka-long back pa or emo hair habang nakakurbata pa. Like our inner college selves trying to escape our corporate shells. And it certainly shows with this generation. The design is more of an evolution of the previous generation than a revolution. The body lines are more refined and upswept compared to the Battlestar Galactica Xylon armor look of the previous one. This one looks more like a stormtrooper this time with a menacing front fascia and upswept body panels. Inside tells pretty much the same story. It still features a horizontally split level gauge cluster similar to the previous model, but different. Gone is the sporty deep dish steering wheel, and this time replaced by a chunkier 3-spoke design. The infotainment and AC controls are angled towards the driver, so Honda still maintains their driver-centric philosophy. There's even this cute econ button to help you train become a more economical driver, and it's not far-fetched to get 9 km per liter in the city with this car. Syempre, space is plenty. It can fit 5 people comfortably, although meron na siyang center hump sa likod. Hindi na flat yung floor niya unlike the previous past Civics. Even the engine is still same, but different. Under the hood is a 1.8 liter iVTEC engine that makes 140 horsepower and 174 Nm of torque. If that sounds familiar, it's because ito rin yung power figures ng dating Civic, pero if you think they're the same engine, you'd be wrong. It's designed to have less friction and better fuel economy, and power delivery is more linear. Nawala na yung VTi kick this time around. Now, the reason why the Civic is underrated and pretty much overlooked by the boy racers and the fuckboys is because of these factors. It's modern and more mature looking. Like looking at the girl next door and never giving a second look because her name is plain Jane. But the common factor of all Civics, like I mentioned earlier, is that you can think of this as a blank canvas. Your canvas to dress up and make pretty. Suddenly, hindi na ganun ka-plain si Jane after all. Albert, the owner of this Civic, prides himself with keeping his modifications neat, clean, simple, and functional. You won't find anything over the top on this car, and that just adds to the less is more appeal of this generation Civic. The red Honda badge, typically reserved for the top-of-the-line Type R model, sits right at home with this all-white themed car. Sobrang out of place ng stock 16-inch mags sa Civic, pero with the JDM 17-inch P1 Buddy Club mags shot in low-profile cars, as well as LNT lowering springs, it brings the looks and driving dynamics of the car to an entirely new level without sacrificing comfort. This is, after all, Albert's daily driver. It also has an upgraded exhaust system, giving the Civic a low-key yet meaty exhaust tone, and the engine is braced by a 4-point struts from Ultra Racing. Topping it all off are full Keon Sondra headlamps and fog lamps, an SQ sound setup that emphasizes the overall sound quality of the system. Now, how does it drive? Like any Civic should. Confident, hard, and responsive. Everything has been tastefully done to complement all the other parts, and it doesn't lose its driving dynamics. Hindi porket kaya mong ilagay lahat, ibig sabihin gagawin mo. Canvases are meant to be painted on, but you don't have to go and use all the colors. Minimalist philosophy in itself is a revolution against the current trend of abstract expressionism, breaking down a point to its finest details and keeping the essence of a character. Minimalism doesn't mean incomplete or barren, but it's knowing when you've done just enough to achieve perfection. Once you've achieved your desired result, you'll have to take away one thing before adding another. Why buy all this crap when all you wanted is something beautiful? The same goes with growing up. As you mature, everything you loved and enjoyed as a kid might not be as desirable to you anymore. Suddenly, the newest PlayStation isn't that important. You might learn to appreciate Post Malone's maturity into his post-hip-hop alternative folk rock stylings. You learn to choose sleeping in on a weekend instead of chasing tail and drinking till 3 AM, and that a white t-shirt and jeans are better because you don't have to think of what you want to wear anymore. This Civic is for the guy who's learned about the simpler and finer things in life. Maybe a 9,000 RPM redline isn't that important to you anymore. As long as you're comfortable in your own skin, nothing can be taken away from you. And at the end of the day, isn't that what perfection really is? Not giving a flying fuck.